Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
Well, hello and welcome to Aggressive Negotiations, the Star Wars podcast that you just don't know how you could live without. And I am just one of your hosts here, Matthew Rushing, and we are coming at you from, I believe, level 1313 here on Coruscant. It is extremely filthy. They do not have the cleaning droids down here. And with me, as he is always, the one and only Jedi Master, John Mills. And I'm sorry, you're wearing the real Twin Peaks t-shirt? What is that sort of like, I don't know. What is that, John?
The real, wow, let's pull back the curtain. Let's shatter the illusion of these personas that we've created. The real Twin Peaks, Matt, is a festival that I went to celebrating Twin Peaks, the TV show, the classic TV show that redefined television. The oldest Padawan and I flew out a few months ago to experience, as of this recording, it was a little more than a month ago. Feels like a lifetime ago. We went to the real town, North Bend, Washington, where they filmed the show, and it's delightful. I highly recommend it, everybody. I highly recommend the show, and if you really want to infuriate people, watch the third season and then tell them you don't hate it. Boy, you think it was contentious to say you like the prequels? Oh boy, just say you like season 3 of Twin Peaks. It'll just absolutely infuriate people left and right.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of like being a Star Trek fan and being like, yeah, I think actually Enterprise might be one of the best series.
Oh my gosh! Now you're just begging for fights, aren't you?
Before we just get completely lost in that other universe and show up with Ahsoka, make sure you find us wherever you get your podcasts and give us a star rating review on places like Apple Podcasts or even Spotify. Help people find the show, and of course, we would love it if you would share the show with people on something like an Instagram or an X Twitter. Over on X Twitter, you can find the show at the Jedi Masters. In fact, interact with us there. John and I get a little lonely, and we'd love to hear from you about what you're thinking, what you're liking here in Star Wars, what you're excited for. Maybe you're going to Star Wars Celebration Japan. We would love to hear about that. So
we would also love for you to maybe bring a sticker back or something like that for your good old Jedi Master friends over here. That'd be pretty cool.
And of course, you could find us, the entire network is on Facebook at facebook.com/thenerdparty. We're online at thenerdparty.com. And so check all of that out, yada, yada, yada. We say it every time. But okay, so John, this is the episode, I think, that when people think Star Wars Andor, this is probably the episode that comes to mind. And it's the phrase that galvanized just a generation of people, right? Which was one way out. And so I think it's only fair that we actually start this episode with the conversation is that they finally had it. They've had enough. To quote, what is it? The film, is it? I can't remember. It's like, it'll come to me later and I'll hate myself. But, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Oh, Network.
Yeah,
you're thinking of Network.
I was like, I couldn't think of the word network. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what happens. And I'll just put it this way. The moment that really galvanizes the series for me is when Kino Loy looks at Andor and basically just begins repeating all of the things that Andor has been saying to him for the past few weeks, and then finds his own voice as he's instructing all of these, workers on what to do. And it's just this incredibly powerful moment because it's in that moment, I think, in a lot of ways, a piece of who Andor is as the leader locks into place because it's that galvanizing moment where he realizes that the words that he has said has had an impact on a person to the point to which not only are they repeating them, but then they're owning them, and then they're utilizing their own words to add to that to continue that movement. And I found that to be just, it's one of the things I think that the writing, it's just so well done in that moment because everything has been building to this, really.
Well, I think that, sure. I mean, you can absolutely call out the writing. It is strong writing for this episode. I agree with you. This is a high watermark episode for people. People remember this one. People know this one.
And not just because they literally jump into some high water, but,
Right. Yeah, exactly. But the fact of the matter is that the direction, and I think it's Toby Haynes directs this one, and the direction is what makes that scene really work super well. The talent behind the camera with this series is what makes it truck along as well as it does. This is additionally, I want to build on what you're saying here because I have a lot more fun with Andor talking about these sorts of things, but I think that one of the more interesting things is that when they get into the room, it's like the reveal in The Wizard of Oz. It's just these three pasty dudes sitting at control consoles who are living with them but abstracted from them. And they're just saying, okay, it's time to say on program, stand back, we'll do these things, just say that stuff and all of those sorts of things. So even though these people all live together, they're abstract to each other until that exact moment.
Yeah.
And in that exact moment, suddenly the horror of the entire situation becomes real. And I think that's really the thing to sort of look at as well, is that how easy it is hiding behind a screen to abstract somebody, to make them the person that needs to be controlled or the person that's the enemy, or to even transmit a message designed to break their spirit. Because all they hear when that guy talks into the microphone is on program. It sounds like this big ominous voice, and it's some dude that looks like he'd lose a slap fight with one of my kids.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
And you sort of see it, and you're like, wait, this is what I've been afraid of this whole time? It really, I think, speaks to that idea that the machine is powered not only by terrible people, but people who are once again just doing their job. We've seen the shore trooper that arrests Andor, and he's obviously some dude on a power trip who's behind a mask. And so he's abstracted the world and abstracted himself. He can do whatever he wants to because he's behind the mask. And these guys are behind a screen. And so they don't think about the consequences of their action. And so I think there's this running theme of abstraction and how it allows us to dehumanize those around us because they're not people when we don't encounter them.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and a big part of that, I think, also plays into, seeing those guys in those scenes as they're being surprised at what's happening. You immediately are called back to when Andor was like, they're scared, and power, people in true power aren't scared. And I think that's what's kind of so fascinating about that, is that what we're dealing with here is this microcosm of something that's going to continue to spread, right? And that the fear then is something you even see in Star Wars, where, the guy comes up to Tarkin. He's like, we've analyzed their attack pattern, and there is actually a chance, right? And he's like, do you want to get on your shuttle, basically, and get out of here? And Tarkin's like, at a moment of triumph? But there's a fear there.
There is.
And that's that same fear that we kind of see in these guys as they all realize, oh, we are out of luck here. We are up a creek without a paddle, and there's no way, because as Andor has been telling Kino, they don't have the men. and they know it. And so the only control they have over us is fear. But their fear is, and it's that, meme you see of the few taskmasters and the people rise up and they've got nothing. And that's exactly what, we get in this episode. And I love you calling that out, because there is a real human element to this that does kind of put a face to some of these people in the Empire. And that does make the morality of all of this just feel more weighty than and it's one of the reasons, obviously, George even talked about it. He puts, stormtroopers with the helmet on. They're all kind of the same size. So you can't see their faces. They become this faceless enemy. And there's a reason for that, and yet, you're also reminded in some sense that the game that the Empire is playing at this point of keeping these guys in, when they talk about, they're making up our sentences, we're never getting out of here. I mean, they're just literally in a concentration camp where they're being well fed, but they're being well fed because they're doing a job, and they don't care if you die. They'll just bring in more guys to replace you. And,
right.
And that is just, I mean,
it's the industrial prison complex.
Yeah. Yes.
That's I know we talked about that last time, but that it really is one of those things where you have to wonder the evil that is being perpetrated here. We have the abstraction, we have the evil, we have these things, and it's one of those things where I think a line that people blow past sometimes as well is somebody saying during this whole thing, people don't know what's happening here.
Exactly.
So we have that other layer of abstraction. It's just like people buying stuff on Temu don't think about where it's made. They don't care. All it is a picture on a screen, and that's what I'm buying. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that in addition to that, this is, and I said this before, this arc in specific, when I'm talking about my previous issues with the series and the way that it is, distributing storyline and pace and tone and all of those sorts of things. This is the arc. This is what makes everybody fall in love with this series, regardless of the other issues that they have. This arc, this Narkina 5 arc in specific, and it ends so well, specifically because of the moment with Kino Loy when he freezes and he says, "I can't swim."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the added tragedy of it, because you see Andor freeze for a second and he's about to go get him when the surge of people pushes him over.
Yeah.
And I'm left, this is what I think is so brilliant about this episode. I'm left wondering what happened to Kino Loy.
Yeah.
They came back in. They took control of that prison again. Was he simply put back in? Was he summarily executed? Was he able to be a stainless steel rat and escape into it and never get caught? And that would be a very interesting series for me. Hey, ancillary books, animation, whatever you want to do, tell a story of Kino Loy or somebody like Kino Loy who gets into the ducts, and he's the thing that goes bump and skitters in the night. It's not rats. It's Kino Loy. And he's in the ducts and he's trying to get people to move around again and try to get the insurrection going again. And I think that would be a super interesting thing, because I think that was the perfect way to resolve him, is to leave that question, because it's resolved enough that we can talk about it, what happened to him. If they had killed him, we would have been unhappy. If he had hit the water and drowned, we would have been unhappy. If he had gone back in because he was too afraid, we would have been unhappy. If Andor had rescued him, now we've suddenly got another character that's vying for protagonist time. And additionally, jog my memory, was Cyril in this episode? I don't think he was he?
No, he wasn't. It was great
It's
without
interesting.
him.
It's interesting how good this episode was, and there was no Cyril in it, was there?
So I mean, we have to talk about just, Andy Serkis is a
Yeah.
revelation in this episode, and he truly shows what an incredible actor he is in all of these scenes. But that moment where, and we'll talk about it in a second, because the music also plays a huge part in that scene as well, like moving you. But there's almost like a giddy, weird joy, and he's like, I can't swim.
Mm-hmm.
I can't swim. Like, to realize, like, I got this far, I'm out, I'm free, but yeah, I can't swim. So, but at least I'll die free. And there's just something so human about that moment where it's like, I just have to laugh at the cruel irony that sometimes life is. And he plays that to perfection in the way he delivers the lines, the look on his face, and then they combine the music that has been swelling this whole time. And Star Wars is so known for the way in which music completes what's happening on screen, and everything is working gangbusters in that moment to sell this emotional release that you've had now in this third episode, where we've been watching, him be locked up. It's just, oh my gosh, I'm gushing, but it really is. It is legitimately one of the best things that Star Wars has ever done, because of the way in which it really, truly works together.
It does work really well together. But I think even this is one of those episodes where I would call it out because it works even if you haven't seen anything beforehand.
Agreed.
This is very unique, that you can have something that is part of such a larger arc, but I could just show this episode as a standalone to somebody and they could still recognize, oh, this is just really good. I get everything. I get what's happened. Although the one thing with that ties into the other bit of performance that we would all heap praise upon, and that is with our good old friend Skarsgård, who delivers a monologue that's beautiful, because you really feel, as I'll address it as a longtime fan. Saw Gerrera is not capable of delivering this monologue.
Right.
Because he has no regret about the path that he's chosen. He's embraced it. He's more like Vader. This is who I am. This is what I'm sticking with. And it will take a whole lot to change his heart. Whereas you see the real tragedy here is that we have a character who's on, quote unquote, our side, but lives every day with the knowledge, as he says, that he has to use the tactics of his own enemy.
Yeah.
But he's so all in at this point, the only thing he can do is ride that all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. This is it. This is the only ticket he has, and it's the only one he's going to cash in. And I think that monologue is beautiful. And I think that the one regret I would have is that it's nested in this episode, which is so terrific with Andy Serkis and Diego Luna. And it's like, it's everything vying for attention. It's another one of those things where I know they couldn't put it anywhere else. Mm-hmm. There's no magic wand for this. This is the best place it could be, probably. But it breaks my heart because it feels like this deserved more time for me to soak in it. Like an extra beat or two afterward of him in action, as opposed to having this wonderful moment and then saying, okay, sorry, we gotta kind of wrap things up now. And it's like, that sort of thing stings to an extent because it is so good and it gets so overshadowed by the fact that there are so many other great performances in the episode. So it's like an embarrassment of riches thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, that speech, and what I think is so interesting is, this speech is really Luthen explaining the cost of the rebellion on so many that will go unnoticed and unnamed and And in some ways, I think that's kind of what makes this story with Andor so interesting, because he also himself in some ways is unnoticed and unnamed, because, when we think about it historically, this is not, these aren't characters that we hear their names in the original trilogy. And yes, I know the reason, right? But I think that this actually goes to just prove that point of, yes, they are going to be people who did things in the background that nobody else could do or would do, and yet without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. And and then the way that Skarsgård just delivers those lines, I mean, it's incredibly heartbreaking. And when he just finally gets to the point where he says, "Everything, I've given everything," it's powerful.
Well, I think also the thing that is interesting, because, okay, I'll have two separate points here. One is your point about, in the original 6 movies, we don't have these Andor moments where we see, the people who sacrificed everything and lost it all and their identity and everything. We see Luke Skywalker. We see the big hits. We see Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme and Leia. We see these characters having their moment. We don't see them having the long, dark night of the soul in the same way that these characters do. That's true. And that's what I'm going to double back to, because going from that, you ask the average person, and unless they're a history buff, they don't know who Francis Marion is in the American Revolution. The Swamp Fox is a bit of a mystery, because he's not George Washington. He's not Thomas Jefferson. He's not Ben Franklin. But Francis Marion was incredibly key to the American Revolution. He was very important. They kind of made a movie about him called The Patriot, where it was kind of him, but whatever. But it's still not a character. He's like, he's like an Andor, where it's like it really needed him to work. But we talk about the larger names in the thing. And the thing that I would come back around to is, by opening it up and showing these characters, do you think, because this is something people have been talking about since Rogue One first came out, and some of the post Rogue One materials have leaned into this, especially in writing. I think Alphabet Squadron had a character say something to this effect, where, does it take anything away from Luke in the rebellion, or Leia, or Han, or Lando, or the characters we know from the films? Does it take anything away from them to have these stories show such a gritty, dark, sacrificial aspect to them?
No, I don't think so. And I think a part of that is, and Luthen actually says that, right? When he's making this speech, he's like, stands before me as the hero, and we need the heroes. And so the role that Luke and Leia, Han, even Mon Mothma will play, right, is to be the people that people see as kind of the hero, is important. And you need those, because they're inspirational, right? There's just something about that. I mean, we need that. And so, no, I think what this just does, it just adds depth, right? It doesn't take anything away. I think it just adds depth. And of course, again, Gilroy's whole point in this was to say, I wanted to take Star Wars as seriously as anybody had ever taken it. And I think he does that in this show. But in doing that, I don't think that it does take anything away from any of the other characters. I think it just really, I think the same thing that we've talked about with any expanded universe novel, what you want that thing to do is to enhance the thing that I then watch later on, or, and I think Andor then just enhances my enjoyment and my understanding of everything around it. And so, no, I don't feel that. Do you think that or feel that at all?
No, I don't think that way. Primarily, I don't personally think that way, because I think that this is just a different story. This is, meanwhile over here. And I guess maybe when you grow up a comic book fan, you're used to this sort of thing where they were constantly doing meanwhile, that sort of thing. I think that there is a frustration I have is when I see it creep into other materials. Like, it irked me when I saw in one of the books where somebody was talking about, oh yeah, well, Luke Skywalker wouldn't have been anything without Jyn Erso. And I'm like, why can't they both just be heroes, guys? Why do you have to take away from what person A did because of what person B did? Why don't you just say person A and B both did great things, as opposed to trying to say one is greater than, one is greater than. That's the type of stuff that I have seen that gets under my skin.
Yeah.
But that's something that, so long as it's not like quote unquote official materials, I don't really pay it any mind.
Yeah. It's probably in a book that only like 5 people read anyway. So
probably.
I mean,
but
I don't want
at
to
the
throw
same
shade,
time,
but I'm going to throw shade.
Throw as much shade as you want to.
Yeah.
It's an irritating thing to me, because again, it demonstrates a limited point of view, as Obi-Wan might say.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I have to ask, is there anything that you see as a failing in the episode? Is there anything where it falls short?
So I think, okay, just no, there isn't. And a big part of that is because I think you mentioned, one, there's no Cyril in this episode, so we're not shoving things into the episode that doesn't need to be there. And the things that are there are accentuating the A story of them escaping, which is all the hard decisions they're having to make this happen. So what are we seeing? We're seeing Mon Mothma have to make these terrible decisions for the things she knows she needs the most for the greater good. Getting herself, into bed with this, Davos character.
Figuratively speaking.
Yes, very figuratively. And yet, what does he want in return? He doesn't want money because he doesn't care about money. He wants to utilize her for prestige.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also wants to connect their families, via the possibility of marriage, which we've already seen, and we get a taste even more in this episode about the fact that Chandrillan marriages are marriages of more convenience and more of political ramifications than they really are love.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore that's what he's basically asking for his son and her daughter, which, I find to be, again, will she compromise her values and beliefs to have happen what she knows needs to happen? And again, like, her performance is great there. The guy who's playing Davos is just so wickedly despicable.
Yeah, can I just say what I love about the fact that they named him Davos is because of Davos, Switzerland, where all those super wealthy people show up at least like once a year.
Yep.
Where they talk about how they're going to shape the fate of the world. I'm like, that is some slick character naming. Like, that is just absolutely, like, I stand up and I salute that, because I'm like, man, I see what you did. I love you for that. That is some top notch sneaking it in commentary right there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so No, I mean, for me, this is the episode, which is just like, it's kind of the pinnacle of the season so far, where it's just everything is working on all cylinders, and the editing of the storylines is perfection. And I think it also, I mean, even the little bit we get with the Empire and stuff, it's all playing in to every other part of the story. So it just kind of goes to show something that we've batted around a little bit. It's like, did we need the Cyril character in this, the way that he is portrayed, and or just even just the way he is? But no, I mean, this episode is awesome. Where do you land on this one? And was there anything that, I know you're more of a stickler for editing and that kind of stuff, so was there anything that you felt like could have been excised or done differently? Or
honestly, no. I think that this is, I will go ahead and hang perfect episode medal around this episode. I can honestly say that the first time I went through this series, I was touch and go until Narkina 5. I was kind of like, it's good, but it's not, it's not lighting me on fire. I really don't like this Cyril guy. And I'm going along, and then it hits this episode. And this is the one where I was like, okay, fine. I'm riding it out till the end because this is magnificent. I think in retrospect, we're going to look back and realize that this is a little bit more classical structure, in the sense that this is the climax of the story, and the rest is, as the French might say, denouement, where it's just that it's the falling action from here on out. This is the climax for me of this season. Because this is where everything gets set. Everything from this point forward is wrap up. And am I right? Am I wrong? I'll find out on this rewatch. But that's my impression of it, is like, this episode does, if this is the climax of everything, it hits every mark that it needs. And it is, as a result, in the context of this series, this is a perfect episode. Yeah. Wouldn't touch a darn thing.
This is a 5 out of 5. Like, this is everything that you wanted from this season. And it's incredibly well done. And rewatching it, I was just as moved watching it this time as I was the first time I watched it. And I think that is the hallmark of a good Star Wars episode, is when you can watch the episode and every single emotion that they are wanting you to feel, you feel again. That I put this in the same category as the way I feel about like watching and then rewatching the finale to the Clone Wars, those 4 episodes, that's the kind of feeling I get when I watch this.
I love that for you. I'm going to preface it and say, well, I consider this a perfect episode in this context. I don't know that emotionally I get to the same point as what you're describing, because that final arc of the Clone Wars devastated me in a different way that left a little bit more of a, there was a little bit more of a mark left at the end of that one, which tied into a lot of other things. But I respect what you're saying there. And cool.
No, and I think I get why I definitely get why I think you feel the way that you do. And I think what I'm not, let me put it this way. I am not saying that I necessarily think that they're on the same level in their importance to me. Okay? I'm saying they are on the same level in the sense that the emotions that the creators want me to feel in these moments.
I see.
Is the same for me. And so, I what you said made me want to clarify that, because, that is not
Well, that's good because
yeah.
I was about to be like Zod in Man of Steel and go heresy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it'll
Yeah.
be sort of
So,
and that's an
no.
important clarification. Yeah.
Yes, no, and I'm glad you asked you said what you said because it definitely, I don't want people to kind of come away with this being like, oh wow, can I trust Matt's opinion at all anymore?
You can't. This is an emergency message. I've taken over the prison. I'm telling you right now, you can't.
Anyway, yeah, man, one of the things that I think I'm really loving about I'm loving about this is just us being, like, once we kind of got back to some of the pulled back from some of the kind of frustrating things that you had about the show, I've just really been enjoying the way in which we've been able to have some great discussions about this show, and it's been a lot of fun. So, but John, if people do want to catch up with you and talk to you about the things that you've got going on in your life, or maybe they just want to, you're like, you know what, I want to know what John thinks about this in Star Wars. Where can people find you?
I don't even want to know what I think about in Star Wars, but I appreciate everybody humoring me and letting me talk every so often into the microphone here. You can reach me at the username Kessel Junkie when I am active on social media, which is not often right now, but when I am, that's where you can find me. And you can find me right here on the network, co-hosting a show called House Lights, a film director podcast, where it's basically an excuse for us to watch movies and talk about it. It's Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser co-host it with me, and it's basically just us sitting around talking and having fun about movies. So, give it a shot. But I do also fill some of my spare time over on the 602 Club, over on the TFM network, which everybody should love. And I think, Matt, that's one of the places where they can find you online as well.
Absolutely. You can find me at the 602 Club talking about all those franchises that we love outside of Star Trek. And then on the TFN network, you'll find me with a lot of Star Trek talk. And I hope you'll check all those shows out. Here on the Nerd Party Network, you'll find me on a show called Owlpost, where Drea Kaufman and I talked about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series, one chapter at a time. And last but not least, you can find me over on social media under the name MattRushing02. So if I'm on that platform, that'll be the name that I'm under. But John, I hear the chimes of meditation there at the temple. And, after the stress of this episode, I think I could use some meditation in the room of 1,000 fountains. So I think it's time we close these negotiations.
And I'll just be jumping around in the fountains, being a scamp. Master Rushing, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
On program.